Now, we're always looking to make our life not like Groundhog Day, and today is one of the days we won't have much of a choice. The groundhog is playing for the New York Giants over by the Meadowlands, so it will not be a Groundhog Day. So what Karen and I decided early this morning is the kids are doing their garden, and they're going to want some of our help and some planning. Yeah, Karen likes them to help them lay out their vegetables and stuff. So I didn't want to go for a ride today, even though it may or may not be a riding day. I don't know. It looks like it's cloudy out there. But I thought one of the things, now this bike, let me just look at the mileage here. I've got roughly 500 miles, and it'll be ready for the 36,000 mile service, which will be oil and filter, and I wanted to change the front tire out at that time. It's coming up on the bars, and I want to show what's happening with the front tire. We've had really good luck with tires with this bike. This bike usually is pretty good. I've had Pirelli Sport Demons on it, and I've really had good luck with them, and they are nice and grippy and sticky, but every once in a while I notice, and I've had at least three sets on, maybe four. What I've noticed is they wear on one side more than the other side on this, and it's probably me because I probably lean better to this side. With all my arthritis, maybe I have less arthritis on this side, or I'm just mentally inept as a rider, who knows. But I've noticed as I've gone through this over my lifetime, Frank's Suzuki Bandit used to eat the front tires up in a very strange way. We never figured out why, just keep putting new tires on. Maybe Ray figured it out when he inherited the bike. I've seen Rip, one of our friends, who had a tire that only wore out on one side, and it was crazy. And I've seen other scenarios of tire wear. Now this is the first time, this right now is the first time, and I have another Sport Demon up on the spare wheel, but I thought this is something worth sharing today, and I'm going to try, I'll explain what I think will be a good plan of action for today. So my overall plan was, and I was going to do this, try to do it at the same time and swap out to the black wheels. I have new tires from Vlad, of course, and I was going to try to do that all in one day, but it's not really appropriate. The reason is, now this is a Pirelli Sport Demon. The back tire is holding up like iron, and the front one, and this is the first one of, I'm going to guess, I'll look at the log, of 4 Pirelli Sport Demons, that one side is worn very differently than the other side. This side is almost a flat spot right here. This side, it's curved, and then there's a flat spot. And you can pick it up in the handling, and it's actually, you're probably an average person, I don't know, average, you probably could get another couple thousand miles out of this, but the problem is, when you want to ride, you know, the way we ride anyway, I don't know how you would even describe that. And this, you can feel the handling starting to get a little wobbly. So rather than wait to the very end, today is the kind of day, I have a couple hours, and what I wanted to do is get out the spare wheel and get the new tire mounted. That might be the goal today, but I'm not going to change the plan is I'm going to do all the maintenance. I'm going to have a rainy day maintenance day or whatever, and then I'll swap out the whole front wheel without having to do the tire will already be mounted. So that may be a good plan. And since we only have limited time today and then we go into farmer mode, that's the only game in town. Now I already made my priority for the coming restoration season, which is still 6 months away, that one of the things I want to do is I want to take the set of wheels that's on the West Cooley bike, and I want to paint them high gloss black, super high gloss black, with the exact color that Suzuki emblem is, with the little 1/8 inch stripe. So that's on the list officially as the first project of the upcoming restoration season. Now this tire is not really totally worn out, and it's probably got another 1,000 miles on it or something, but the point is I never like to get right down to the nitty-gritty on these things. I get nervous, and especially when it's a front tire and it starts wearing unevenly, or if it's got that point in the middle and it starts flopping off in the corners. I notice it anyway. So now that I've made a plan for the day, the thing is to check with Karen, because I don't know what time she's going to want to go over there and what we're going to be entailed to do. But what happens is the kids every year, they make a garden just like we do. Last year the varmint got them. Well, I don't know if it was the same varmint, but these varmints are all going to become New York Giant football players very soon. But we still have to have a hot trap, but we'll see how that plays out this afternoon. But for this morning, time to go have some coffee. Now we don't have to feed the fish for the next couple days because you can see they're spawning. And when the fish spawn and they chase each other around like they're doing their mating ritual, we save a lot of money on food. I could put all the food there. They're mating right now. Spawning, whatever you call it, I don't know. Anyway, that was one less thing to do today. But they're having fun. And once I get all my plants watered in, I'll probably have a window of 2 to 3 hours. Really not enough to go for a ride, because most of the rides that I go on, maybe not most, I'd say 99%, you need about a 4-hour window. It's 100 to 150 miles to do the loops that I do. And this is pretty funny if you want to know something funny. My neighbor borrowed that trimmer, the Beast. He's behind the hedge there. How's that trimmer working? Give me a thumbs up. You like that trimmer? Yeah, they call that trimmer the Beast.
It is. I was like, wow, it's taking off a little slow, and then it just starts going.
No, if you pull the trigger halfway, it's fine. You pull it all the way, it's going to go right through a tree trunk.
Okay.
Yeah, for anybody who doesn't know, we live in a wonderful neighborhood, and I just couldn't be happier living in the tree-lined streets of Rutherford, New Jersey. The only time I'm not happy is the day we have to pay the tax bill. Okay, now we can officially start a work day. The production begins. Now when we bought these 2 bags of little wire wheels or whatever these are like 3M pads and all the little polishing discs, I almost never and don't find new uses for these. These are just so handy, and cleaning these wheels up and getting them ready to flip the tire. Now the whole idea of doing everything we do is not to scratch the rim. It takes a little longer to do it this way, but I don't like having those tire iron gouges in the rim. Not after I spend all the time I do painting these rims. And for anybody that doesn't know, painting every single rim that's in this garage is somewhere on my channel of 1,800 videos. Now using a red pad on speed 3, I don't know if you can see this as clear as I can. This just cleans off any oxidation. This is almost perfect. You couldn't ask for an easier way to do this. And if you're restoring, now I know like Thomas Luciano, restoring a wheel, this might be something you want to consider. You don't even have to take the discs off to do this. This is really handy. And it's the red pad on speed 3 that seems to be working the best. It's getting off any oxidation, and you can see how long this is taking. And normally I would, you know, put some of this on fast forward, but I really don't want to, because what'll happen, you can see how long this really takes. And I'm thinking you might even be able to do this right on the motorcycle if you're careful. But again, the whole reason for doing everything, I don't want to have a scratch in that rim. And the sad thing is, once you have a scratch in a rim or a chunk of paint missing, and it's hard enough as you ride a bike, because these are not show bikes, they're daily drivers, and as we're riding, stones do their damage, and other things do it, of course. But I really, I don't want to be the one to do it. Yeah, this is working really nice. And it's very seldom that these tools let me down. They're inexpensive. Everything came from Amazon, cheap as can be. And boy, you can see how that basically renewed. Actually, you could go out onto the disc a little bit. This will not hurt the disc. I do this all the time, but of course the biggest thing is, before I do anything and put this back, clean the discs thoroughly with brake part cleaner. I don't want to have any wax or soap or dead groundhogs or anything on them. So I would say, now you've seen that, and I always like to do one thing in real time here. That's a real-time shot at cleaning up a disc that's been sitting up there probably 2 or 3 years. Got rid of all the oxidation probably in under 5 minutes. I don't think it could be any easier than that. And there's nothing sadder than somebody that does a beautiful restoration job and they have crappy looking wheels. To me, that's terrible. Anyway, that's a few minutes well spent. And if we're going to do this, we may as well do the whole disc with the edge clean. And then we're going to have to basically get all the dirt and dust off the wheel before we pull that tire. Now, even though there's not a lot of sun out today, maybe the sun will come out, it's definitely to our advantage to have this tire as warm as possible. So I'm hoping I can, just by leaving it out in the sun now, if all else fails, I can put it on the hood of the car. The black car is definitely hotter if the sun doesn't come out. Now every wheel is different, of course, but on these particular wheels, to get in these corners and edges and angles and get the dirt and dust out, this is a great trick. I have just an ordinary paintbrush, a can of ordinary, what is this, wax, it's quick wax, and I can very carefully get in all the corners. And this allows you to get places. Now, Jose had a great idea. He uses chopsticks to do his cleaning. Well, yeah, that's chopsticks and a microfiber is definitely a good choice. I like paint sticks, and I have this thing that I confiscated from Karen, and it's, you know, all the other choices, you can just ride around with dirty wheels and, you know, hope nobody notices, or you don't care. I mean, let's face it, some people don't change their underwear. So, what a good analogy. Anyway, once that's on there, now there's two ways. Let me put this out of the way so I don't knock it over. This is one of the things I learned the hard way, or the easy way, or whatever. You can wipe most of this off with a microfiber. That's pretty relatively straightforward and easy. But you can never get in those corners without having some kind of a stick or paintbrush or something. And all these little edges and angles. And like I said, if you don't care, and I realize a lot of my friends don't care. And I don't think they've ever cleaned the wheels of their bike. But that's okay. We can still be friends. I just, this is the way I like to have my motorcycle. And actually, I do change my underwear regularly. I wouldn't say once a week, but at least every 2 weeks. So, just kidding about that, by the way. But anyway, so here's the thing. Now, there's always these little spots. And this is where the paintbrush comes in handy. There's always these little spots that you just can't get. And the rag has wax on it, and you can get in there. And once you do it, and you can do it while it's still on the motorcycle, but when I change a tire, I want this to be clean. I'm getting down in all those little edges and valleys, and it'll probably take 5 minutes, 10 minutes maybe to do the whole wheel. But it'll hopefully be a lot nicer. And yeah, something I take pride in anyway. And if you don't, like I said, it was just one of the good choices. The chopsticks thing is a good idea, by the way. But anything you can use to get into the little nooks and crannies. Now, another thing you can do, and I've done this before too, is I have a thing with compressed air that I can put the compressor up to 100 pounds, and it has a little tube. Actually, it's a Harbor Freight thing. But the problem is it makes such a mess in the shop. I have to do it outside, and well, for one wheel it's not worth even doing it, but if we were doing a whole bike, that might pay. Anyway, we're going to try to get this cleaned up, and it's time, actually it's going to be time very soon, get that, so many nooks and crannies, it's like cleaning an English muffin. Thomas's English muffins. But a lot of people, you know, it's funny, a lot of people just don't know how to make a job like this relatively simple and straightforward. And if nobody shares the tricks with you, maybe you would just not be able to do it, or you'd spend a lot of effort on something that should be just a few minutes. And I think, and it's my personal opinion, which of course is a kosher opinion, that the biggest thing you can do to customize a bike for your own taste is put on a custom paint job, which all these bikes have, or most of them. And second thing is have a unique set of wheels that nice and shiny and not flat black. And that's what kind of makes me happy. So I think we're pretty well clean here. We can let the air out of the tire next and break the beat, get that old tire off. Okay, next step, getting straighter valve out, let the air out of the tire, and we get prepped up to break the bead. Now whether I use soap or Windex, it doesn't matter. This will just make sliding the bead up just a little bit easier. And the point is, this kind of work is physical enough. You don't have to find ways to make it more challenging. Now I got to set up the bead breaker with towels. I have it set up. All the hard edges have Gorilla Tape on them. Let me show that. That's one of the things that, by the way, is a good tip. Now all of the edges that would contact the rim, all these edges have multiple layers of Gorilla Tape around here. The whole idea of that, and I will put a towel down, or multiple towels also. The whole idea is I don't want to have a sharp edge or slip and scratch that rim. Well, I don't want to, actually the truth is, I don't want to scratch any rim. Every one of these rims has been a labor of love, and once I get them done, I don't want to beat them up. And when a rim has a big chunk missing out of it, you think, oh, nobody will notice that. The first thing you do, you park the bike and somebody says, how'd that scratch get there? Oh, I also have this, Chuck gave me this, it's an old fork leg from a dirt bike, just to get a little more leverage on this, because basically I'm getting old and feeble and weak. But a combination of all those things usually will result in next thing is to carefully cut off the tire, and we do that in several steps. So the first step is just to cut up to the edge. Now I want to be real careful when I go down in here. I don't want to come up and chip the rim. Now, because what's happened is we've got the bead down here with the, what I call the dog bone. This should be relatively easy to get this in place. I put a couple of zip ties on there just for insurance while that part is in there, because it's going to be very difficult to get that last cut. It's going to want to pop. Now once this side is cut, and getting a little, by the way, this is a thing they make, it's nylon for separating molds. You can get that at any mold making shop. I got that from when I was a partner in a machine shop. This is a very handy tool too. It's called a dog bone, nickname a dog bone, that you use for, obviously the thing is, hold the bead down in there when you're either seating the tire, or in this case, this looks a lot harder than it is, but I've done it enough times, it just seems to go pretty well for me. Okay, the whole thing is up now. Now we can flip it. And all we have to do now is just set this side up in a similar way. And where's the cut? Right here. And cut that last little piece. Let me just say, there are a lot of ways to change tires. And what I found is most of the time that a rim gets damaged or scratched or whatever, it's almost always from taking the old tire off, not putting the new tire on. Because when you get to that last little thing where you have to get it and bend it over, there's always damage to the rim. Almost always. And that is what I'm always trying to avoid. Now, to somebody who doesn't work with these type of tools all the time, it may look a little challenging, and you have to be careful for the kickback in these tools. So I would suggest, if you're not comfortable using these tools, use some other method. But this is a method that has worked well for me. Now, with the tire off, I want to clean some of this oxidation up with a wire brush. I think I can do it on the wheel downstairs. Get that nice and clean just for a better seal to the new tire. Now, because the sun never really came out today, I was compelled to put this on the hood of the car. I don't know if it's going to be warm enough, but this is a small 16-inch tire, and the smaller the tire, the more difficult these are to do. going to do is just get rid of some of that corrosion that was on there, and it should be ready. So we're ready to mount the tire, and the only issue is the tire because it's a cloudy day. It's about 70 degrees. Tire's not real hot. And whenever you're mounting a tire, the hotter you can make the tire, the better. Whether you do it with a quartz heater or you do it by putting it out on a driveway on a 90-degree day, it's always good to change tires in the peak of a sunny day. And I just try to give the tips that I think are useful. The bigger, wider tires, the rear tires, go on super easy. Front tires, narrow tires, and smaller tires. This is a 16-inch rim. This is going to be the most difficult to do. And a lot of times it just won't go, and I have no choice then other than to use a tire iron to get the last little bit on, but we always give it our best shot first. Okay, so this part of the job I have to do without any hand protection, any gloves, because the Gorilla Tape, and this is Gorilla Tape, is so sticky it sticks to the gloves. So I've looked at the tire, I have the rotation. I'm going to lay this on this way. The rotation is correct. I have Pirelli, conveniently enough, have a dot for where the valve should be. So the first thing is to tear off 4 pieces of duct tape that are maybe a little bit longer than what we need, get them all ready to go. And this is the part that gets, well, I've done this so many times, and 90% of the time you don't even need the tire irons, it just goes on. But those times, this at 70 degrees, I don't know. And I used to have a temperature gauge, I don't know who borrowed it. Problem with the temperature gauge was people don't want to buy one, they just want to borrow it. Okay, so the first thing, we know that's going that way, we know that's going that way. And this gets a little bit, I don't want the tape to go down into where this is going to be. I don't want to cover up that dot, so I can wrap this basically around here, bring it up here, put my weight on here, and let's see what this, see if I can show the label of this product up. It's No More. But as I said, Dawn seems to work just as good. I'm not sure it doesn't even work better, but this is what we have. But the whole trick to getting this done, the whole trick in a nutshell is there's no substitute for just getting the tire warm. If you have, when I had a warming box, I had it, somebody borrowed it, I don't have it anymore. Kind of the story of my life. Okay, I got to put some on the rim, and then we go see if it's our lucky day. It's mostly because this tire is cold. I just can't get the tire warm enough to go the last little bit. The last, I'm just going to guess, the last 20 times we did this, we didn't need the tire irons, but we never got to show what happens. And it's really simple. When you use a tire irons, you take the 2 top pieces of tape off, and you've got to just go and be super, super careful. Usually you don't have a problem doing that. The problem you always have is taking the old tire off. And by the way, you got to get all the tape off. You can't have any in the bead here, or else it's not going to seal right. All right, next step is to make sure, and I always double check it, that I have the tire rotation correct, number 1, and that I have the balancing, the red Pirelli dot, right where the tire valve is. Now, in our case, it's jury-rigged a little bit because we have an aluminum Curvy Girl Schrader valve. Normally there'd be a steel one here. I don't know if they account for that when they cast these wheels. It doesn't really matter though. We've got it right, we've got it right. And by the way, this was another thing. I checked the date on this tire. This tire is not quite 6 months old now, so this was a good deal. When I got these tires, they were almost brand new. So that's going to really work in my favor too. But getting that profile right, we don't have that one side all scuffed up. When I do the maintenance and I do this tire swap onto the bike, it's gonna make a giant. Nothing makes a bike handle better than brand new tires at the right pressure. Now we'll see if this is gonna, like most of them, they seat right up, but if they don't, we got to go to nuclear war. Here we go. Now what I'll do is I'll put 50 pounds of air in here, since we're not putting this on a motorcycle today, and I'll check it tomorrow and the next day and see if we're right where we should be. 50 psi. I try to, before I seat this, I try to get a rag in here and get as much of that I call it grease or whatever it is, but try to get as much of it out as I can, but always some stays in there. But okay, we're ready to balance. So step one is just to see which is the heavy side of the tire. That's the heavy side, and we'll see by how much. Okay, pretty easy to figure out that what's going to happen. The weight is going to need to be, we probably can get away with 10 here. Okay. And of course you can just let this sit, let this sit, let this sit. Eventually it's going to self-center, and you know that the exact opposite is where to start with your weights. Now I'll start with 10, go to 20, and hopefully we'll be, well, we'll see. It looks like it's pretty close though. See, it's going to be right where the tire valve is, and you know what? If I had a steel tire valve, I probably wouldn't need the weights, but that's okay. Yeah, it's probably within range of 10, but we're going to find out right away. So I do have plenty of choices of weights. Lucky for me, I don't know if we're going to be able to use. I actually had some black ones in here, which might be good. I really don't like using, I don't like these because sometimes they come off, but I'm going to have to try them because the weight needs to be right where the valve is. So otherwise this is going to get... So it's really a good idea. I clean that with isopropyl alcohol. I'm going to let that dry for a minute and then see if that, then obviously if I can get the weights to go right in here. This is really the light spot of the wheel. So kind of ironic. Maybe we can get half of the weight on each side. I'm not sure. But, and maybe that'll be, I'm really fussy about having wheels balanced. Some people aren't. Some people don't really care. But the problem is I put so much time into these wheels and so much time trying to maintain them and keep them looking nice. I hate to compromise it. So after going back and forth with these weights, and I'm not so sure about these weights, I always prefer these, but there's no way to snap this on exactly where the tire valve is. So what I did, I came up with this little solution, and that I guess is going to have to do because there's no other choice here. I really don't have a choice about that. But anyway, but here's the good news. No matter where I put the tire now, and that's the test, is no matter where you put the tire, that one heavy side doesn't drop down. I think we're pretty good to go. Before I'm finished with this, I want to make sure I don't have any residual grease or wax or soap or anything. Even before I install this is not going on a bike today. And the last thing I have to do, and I didn't do it yet, I usually do it as soon as I mount, is check the bead with Windex. And by the way, there's some really good videos of times that, keep in mind that when we change tires, wider rims are much easier to change than narrow rims. And this is a perfect storm of a difficult job. A narrow rim, a small rim, and a cold tire. And we still got it on, but it's not the point. The point is I like to make the job as easy as possible and share any tips I know. Now I've shared what I know, but today it just wasn't our lucky day. But you know, most of the time it is our lucky day. Being honest, the only part of this job I'm not real crazy about. I'm not crazy about those stick-on weights, but I'm going to have to see if, after a ride or two, if they don't loosen up or come off. And I don't want to put duct tape, or what they make you do at track day is put Gorilla tape or duct tape on top of them. I don't want to do that either. I'll have to figure something else out if that doesn't work. But we did get through a very crazy day. So the day ended and we have our tire mounted, it's balanced. Again, not crazy about the glue-on weights, but we're going to see if they stay on. And if they don't, we will come up with something better. In the meantime, This guy is ready now for our maintenance day, and as I do this, I put one hand on this tire. Wow, what a difference in profile. And that is very strange that tire wore that way. Maybe this one is going to wear that way too, but if you look at them side by side, boy, no comparison at all. Anyway, I want to thank the COVID workers, all of the healthcare workers that have really stuck their neck out for us. And I hope that very soon we'll all be back together having these meetups and whatever. What robbing banks together or whatever we're going to do. Anyway, I hope you did enjoy watching the video, and thanks for watching. And the problem, as always, is with everything. I like to do work methodically. I like to have things clean when I assemble them, when I work on them. I like to maintain them after they're done. I don't like to wear tires out to the last possible mile. And when I do it, the biggest objective I have is don't gouge and gouge up the rim. So I hope you did get some good information out of this video, even though we didn't have a real lucky day.